The Head Coach Isaac Collins Show. Here's Dan Flickinger and Seton Hill Head Coach Isaac Collins.
Welcome back to Griffin's Game Day as we continue on another Saturday for Seton Hill football here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Dan Flickinger with you now, and it is time for another installment of the Head Coach Isaac Collins Show as we talk to the head coach of the Seton Hill Griffins during every Griffin's Game Day. Well, I should say every Griffin's Game Day except for last week because, unfortunately, Slippery Rock couldn't accommodate our video equipment in the press box, so we were forced to have to watch the Griffins at home last week. And, Coach, a tough loss against Slippery Rock. Your team trailed just 28-19 at halftime, but the Rock scored 21 unanswered points in the second half to put the game away. What kind of unraveled for your team in the second half?
Well, I just think our youth caught up with us a little bit in the second half. When you get to this point in the season, you're hoping that you're a lot healthier than you are. We had some different faces playing for us on both sides of the ball, and I just think that we just made too many mistakes down the stretch that we just couldn't overcome.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the healthier team a little bit later, but kind of breaking down the game, looking at the first half, starting with the opening drive, Slippery Rock goes 10 plays and scores to go up 7-0. This is the third time in 4 games that the opposition has scored on the opening drive of the game. And, Coach, I know it's something you've harped on. We've talked a couple of times, I think, during the broadcasts and our coaches show that can't happen. Why do you think it's kind of happening to the defense?
Well, I think guys are just still kind of settling in as we look at us defensively outside of our guys up front. A lot of guys are just first-time players. So I think when you have that, I think it's nerves, I think it's jitters, I think it's kind of trying to settle into the game plan, get a feel for how this team's going to attack them. But certainly on that first drive, we had a couple opportunities to get ourselves off the field and forced a punt, and we just weren't able to capitalize.
We saw some good things in the first half. 2 field goals from John Watt of 34 and 27 yards. Obviously, you want to get touchdowns on those drives, and I know John missed an extra point, but are you kind of getting more confident in him, and is he getting more confidence that he can hit those field goals, get you guys an easy 3 points?
Yeah, no, it definitely helps you, especially when you get in close ball games, knowing that you got a field goal kicker that can put it between the sticks. So we didn't hesitate. We felt good about where we were. Absolutely, when you're playing against a really good team, as all the teams are in the PSAC West these days, you have to find a way to be able to get touchdowns because you don't know when you're going to get back down there.
Kolten Mitchell threw a pair of touchdown passes in the first half for Seton Hill, one to Keenan Humphrey that came after the Griffins fumbled a snap at the goal line. The defense holds, and then Seton Hill gets the touchdown to Humphrey. And then after the Rock takes a 28-13 lead, Seton Hill goes from its own 35-yard line in just 34 seconds. And Kolten hit Travis Crummy, Seton Hill tight end, for a 10-yard score right before halftime. So some adversity there for the offense, Coach. The fumbled snap, and then the defense holds, and then the offense scores. And then also a pretty impressive drive to go into halftime with a touchdown.
Yeah, no, we knew we were getting the ball at the half, so it was one of the things that we talked about on the sideline is just hey, if we get another possession, we got to try to close out, have an opportunity to kind of cut into the lead, get some momentum going into halftime. So certainly, yes, was pleased on both sides of the ball defensively, getting a stop, and then obviously the offense being able to capitalize and put points on the board.
What was kind of the story, Coach, behind the fumbled snap? I believe that was the play that Chris Jones came in and took the snap under center. What was the kind of story there?
Yeah, I mean, we just we're having issues with our under center snaps, so it was a case where we brought in Chris because he'd done a really good job back in the spring, done a good job all season, so we didn't want to kind of put ourselves in a position where we lost the ball, and unfortunately just didn't get it clean, and he ended up turning the ball over at a critical time that certainly would have helped us momentum wise, as well as obviously putting 7 points on the board.
I know there was a lot of football to be played, but how big of a part of the game was it, and how big of a role did it play in the game's outcome? The start of the second half, as you mentioned, went into halftime with momentum. You knew you were getting the ball. Unfortunately, you got just one first down in that first drive of the second half, and then Slippery Rock scores. So it seemed like a pretty big part of the game, even though there was a lot of football to be played.
No, it definitely was, especially because we made some adjustments, and we had, their explosive play that really kind of gave them some momentum and kind of changed the field position. We had a blown assignment by 2 guys, 2 guys unblocked with an opportunity to, kind of get a TFL. and we just miscommunication, misfitted, led to a big play for them, and then we had some poor tackling on the sideline to go along with it. So, that certainly, I think, kind of got our guys back on their heels a little bit, gave them some momentum, and obviously led to them being able to close the game out.
Slippery Rock led 35-19 at that point, about midway through the third quarter. The Griffins did get the ball back, though, moved to the Slippery Rock 29-yard line after a big first down pickup to Ardell Brown, but unfortunately Kolten Mitchell threw an interception. Slippery Rock again takes advantage and scores, and it's 42-19, and there the offense nearly got the response that you guys wanted, but unfortunately the interception kind of stopped that drive.
Yeah, anytime you get turnovers, it's hard, but we talk about, as we like to say, sudden change defense. When we get a turnover or if there's an explosive play on a kick return or punt return, we want to make sure that we find a way to kind of get stops and hold a field position or hold them to a field goal. And defensively, we weren't able to do that, so it kind of put us further in the hole.
Seton Hill, though, would score on a quick 1-yard touchdown pass to Ardell Brown, but unfortunately it was too late. Seton Hill would go on to lose 49-26 to Slippery Rock. Coach, I guess let's start with Kolten Mitchell, how you believe he's played as a true freshman the last 2 weeks in place of Ryan Barabee. He threw for 399 yards and 3 touchdowns last week, plus an interception. So I guess looking at the stats, he played pretty darn well.
No, he just, he had really, really good presence and, command on the field, understood what we were trying to do, didn't really get rattled when things didn't go well, whether it was a check or an adjustment that he might have missed, really kind of came back, played the next snap. When he threw the interception, really kind of came to the sideline, dusted himself off, was ready to go back in, was mad at himself, all those things. So certainly for us, it's exciting, because a lot of times when you go to your backup quarterback, you just don't know, how they're going to respond. And we think he did a good job, obviously 2 weeks ago against a really good Westchester team when he had to come in a pinch. That led him to being able to start against Slippery Rock, and I think he's got a bright future. Hopefully we can get Ryan back healthy here, and now you got 2 good quarterbacks to go along with Chris Jones.
Yeah, what is Ryan's status coming into this week?
It's still questionable. Questionable. It's more for us. We want to be smart with him so he doesn't have. We bring him back too early, and then all of a sudden you lose him for the season. So he threw it a little bit this week. He's feeling better. We'll see on game day how he feels. But right now we're gonna kind of keep Colt in there until Ryan's 100% healthy.
Another guy that really had a standout game for you, Coach, Uriah Rajkumar, really stepped up in a big way, especially with Matt Williams being banged up. He had 9 catches for 89 yards. I'm sure it was encouraging for you, Coach Eager, and the staff to see him step up in a big way against Slippery Rock.
It really was. I was happy for him. He's been kind of working his tail off. Really battling. It's always tough when you're not getting touches or when you're further down in the depth chart. So getting a few injuries in the offensive receiving core has kind of opened the door. And the interesting thing is that we talked all week that hey, you need to have a good day. We're going to have some matchups and we're going to have some shots, and you got to be able to finish. So it was good to see him do that. And obviously, as we talked, being able to, there's more guys that we can find that can make plays opposite Ardell is really going to help our offense to be that much more explosive.
Especially with Michael Alardo out. How's he doing right now?
He's coming along. He's feeling better every single day. Treatments are going well. Again, we're just kind of being very cautious with him. We had brought him back in training camp, re-injured himself. So now it's a case where we want to kind of take it a little bit slower and see where it goes.
Penalties seemed to be an issue last week. 9 penalties for 137 yards. And I know you don't like to make excuses, but I guess when you have that many inexperienced players in there, I'm sure that had something to do with it, right?
Yeah, no, I mean as I like to say, the kind of the illegal procedures, the jumping off sides, the holding, the things that we can kind of control. You get a little bit frustrated on, but the youthful mistakes, you don't lose a ton of sleep on those because those are fixable. So we want to make sure that we kind of continue to clean things up. We have not been as sharp as we were in our opener down at Virginia Union. We'd only having 3 or 4 penalties, and they certainly at least in 2 of the ball games the penalties played major roles. So we want to make sure we kind of clean that stuff up and give ourselves a chance to be in it in the fourth quarter.
I know talking with you many times before the season and as it started, you were very excited about the fact that you had such a physical spring and training camp and got through so healthy. And now, a couple weeks into the season, who would have guessed it? The injuries I know are coming left and right. Just kind of talk about the status of your health and just how surprised you are, I'm sure, that this has gotten this way.
Well, I really am, because we don't hit nearly as much in the season as we did in the spring and as we did in preseason. And, to come out of those two physical seasons, and really for the most part, unscathed, this is kind of disheartening, just because you're trying to build something, and we're back to kind of where we were a year ago at having to play younger and younger guys, and even the vets, when they come back, they're not at the level we need them to be. So that's very disappointing. It is surprising, because like I said, I thought our guys had a really good off season. I thought we got stronger, got faster. Some of the things are just kind of fluke things that are happening to us. So hopefully, we'll rest a couple guys, and and hopefully be back in full strength here in the next couple weeks.
Your punter, Matt Stewart, hasn't had a great season, Coach, but against Slippery Rock, he averaged 41 yards a punt, hit a 51-yarder, also got one inside the 20, and he's actually added 1 yard per punt better now to his average from even before the Slippery Rock game. As you noticed him getting a little more comfortable?
I think he is. I think he understands that, especially just being a senior, that you gotta bring something to the table. So I think he's doing a good job with our younger kickers and punters during practice, and making sure they're doing the things they need to do to be ready to help our football team. I think he is kind of pushing himself to kind of elevate the bar, so to speak. So certainly he has a as I like to say, he has a live leg. So we got to make sure he continues to kind of get better, and if he can continue to punt the ball 40-plus yards, we certainly will have some great opportunities to hopefully stop some people defensively as they get longer fields.
It's homecoming on the Hill and homecoming in downtown Greensburg for Seton Hill University, and we'll talk about the Griffins' opponent, the Clarion Golden Eagles, when we come back. You're watching Griffins Game Day, and the head coach, Isaac Collins Show, will be back in 60 seconds to talk about Clarion right after this message.
Hampton Inn & Suites, North Huntington Irwin, is Seton Hill University's preferred hotel partner. Stay at this brand new hotel where you can relax by the outdoor fire pit or swim in the indoor pool. You'll love everything, from the clean, modern rooms to the free Wi-Fi and the waffles. Hampton Inn & Suites, North Huntington Irwin, is located just off of I-76, minutes from restaurants and shopping in downtown Irwin. Book now at hampton.com.
Dinos Sports Lounge presents Mouth-Watering Wings, voted the best in the state of Pennsylvania. 20 ice-cold beers on tap, giant man-sized sandwiches, and all sports known to mankind on multiple plasma and big screen TVs everywhere you look. It doesn't take a genius to figure out Dinos is the place for the real sports enthusiast. Dinos Sports Lounge, 2 locations, Route 30 Latrobe and Greensburg.
Dinos reminds you to drink responsibly, have fun, stay safe.
Hi, this is defensive tackle Daquan Thompson. Thanks for watching Griffins football on Westmoreland Sports Network.
And we continue with the Coach Collins Show here on the Westmoreland Sports Network, counting you down to kickoff between Seton Hill and Clarion here on Seton Hill Homecoming 2018. And as we talk about the Golden Eagles, they come in with a record of 3-1 on the season. They've beaten Lock Haven, Lincoln, and Gannon as well. Their lone loss coming to Shippensburg 35-13. That was a crossover game, so they're 1-0 in the PSAC West. Coach, when you put the film on for Clarion, what kind of stood out to you initially?
First thing is their defense. They're doing an amazing job of turning the football over. They're playing extremely hard. They're sound. They're not beating themselves. They're making you earn everything. So that was the first thing that really kind of jumped out. And we talked a lot this week about offense. We got to take care of the football because they are a team that's going to try to generate turnovers. And I think as you watch them turn the ball over in the games that they won, it's really kind of kept their offense and their team kind of, as I like to say, pumped up during the game so that they can kind of close things out, and that's what they've been able to do. They've had some close ball games against good teams, so certainly defensively, I think they're kind of riding that defensive coattails. Offensively, really good skill on the perimeter. They got very good backs. Their quarterbacks have been a little bit of musical chairs, but both kids are capable. They are a big RPO, which is kind of the latest craze on offense. They do it probably more than any team that we have faced to date, so we'll have our hands full defensively, making sure we're being disciplined.
Yeah, their defense seems to be ahead of where their offense is. The Clarion offense ranked just 13 of 15 in the PSAC in total yardage. The defense, though, more towards the middle of the pack. Clarion's rushing defense ranks second in the conference. They also, as Coach mentioned, turn the ball over. On defense, I should say, they turn you over. 10 interceptions, that's tied for fourth. They also have 11 sacks and hold opponents as well to just 23.7% on third down conversions. So, as you just kind of touched on, Coach, do you see that their defense is a little ahead of their offense right now?
I do. I think those guys are doing a good job. I thought they did a good job last year. They seem to be a little bit more experienced this year. So certainly we're going to have to be really, really smart with the football, and our guys are going to have to execute because they're not going to give us anything.
In terms of their rushing defense, what kind of makes them so good against the run? I mean, they held Marcus Jones, who might be the best running back in the conference, to just 22 yards last week on 14 carries.
Yeah, no, they move their front around. They make it hard on the offensive line. Like I said, I think the biggest thing is they play so hard, really sound in terms of their run fits and what they're asking their kids to do. But those kids fly around, and every time you pause a clip, there's 6 or 7 guys around the football, and I think that's what's really kind of helped them to kind of elevate that side of the ball and put them in a position where they're 3-1.
They've used 2 different quarterbacks, as Coach said, Javonte Seard and Jeff Clemens, and actually they even had Tanner Jones come into a game when they were up big on Lincoln. What do you kind of see out of that quarterback position? I mean, is it a case of whatever guy's hot, or do each of those guys have their different kind of qualities?
I think they bring something different to the table, each one of them. I think from our perspective, they don't really change the offense when either kid's in. They're going to RPO, they're going to hand it off. The thing that we have to be aware of, they have not run their quarterbacks a lot in these past couple games, and the teams that we've faced the last couple weeks have had a little bit of success with quarterbacks running. So we got to be ready for that. But I think all in all, I think one of the reasons why they're playing them, I think one kid has a little bit more experience, and I think it's a case where they're kind of going back and forth and trying to get a quarterback that doesn't have a ton of experience out before he makes a mistake. So I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it, at least that we can see on film, because you'll go in and you'll think, all right, well, in the red zone, well, it could be either or guy. So it's not a field position thing right now. They're really kind of going series by series, and I think the guy that probably has the hot hand is who they're going to try and close the game out with.
Their kicker, James Metzger, seems to be a weapon for them. He's connected on all 4 field goals he's attempted on 4 games. So, obviously, when they get into the red zone, they probably feel that they can get 3 points pretty easy.
They do, and that's going to be a challenge for us, trying to keep him out of, his range, because certainly he's been, kind of money in the bank, as they say. So, for us, we got to make sure we're holding field position. We got to make sure that we're attacking when they do get close to his range. So, we try to create TFLs and try to keep them from getting there, because certainly he's shown that he can put points on the board and keep their team in ball games.
And finally, Coach, your keys to victory here today on homecoming.
Well, I think the biggest thing is going to go with kind of our offense against their defense is going to be something that'll be interesting to see. Something's got to give. I think we have to do a great job of taking care of the football. I think our offensive staff and offensive players did a really good job this week. We feel like we got a couple things that we can get some shots on. They don't give you many opportunities, so we have to capitalize on those few explosive play opportunities that we're going to get and make sure that we put points on the board. And then defensively, they have kind of been plodding along. They do what they do. We have to be really, really disciplined. We're going to have to tackle well on the perimeter, because certainly they get the ball out relatively quickly. So I don't know how many hits or sacks we'll be able to get on the quarterback, because with the RPO, it's usually out. So we got to make sure from a defensive perspective that we're a little bit more consistent than we've been. We certainly need to get them to turn the ball over, which they have done a few times times this season that I think will help if we can create some short fields for our offense. And then I think special teams will be kind of the neutralizer. We have to find a way to get a big play, whether that's a block punt, whether that's a big return. We certainly got to make sure we do a good job in the field position because it's going to affect both sides of the ball. If their offense has a short field, they're going to be able to kind of put points on the board. And certainly we feel the same about our offense if we can get them some short fields.
Coach, as always, thanks a lot for your time, and good luck and have some fun today on homecoming.
Absolutely. Thanks.
That is Coach Collins. The Isaac Collins Show can be seen almost every week, except for last week, before Griffin's kickoff here on the Westmoreland Sports Network as part of Griffin's Game Day. Coming up, Sean and TJ will rejoin you in a moment as we continue to set you up for kickoff here on Griffin's Game Day at Seton Hill and Clarion on Seton Hill Homecoming 2018, and it's right here on the Westmoreland Sports Network.